Hey there, and welcome to That Independent Streak. I'm your host, Wendy Campbell, and tell me if this hits. You've gotten to this point in life, or maybe you're creeping up on this point in life, where things are just a little bit different, and they don't make total sense yet. Things are a little bit off. Like you used to be able to eat an entire sleeve of cookies, and you'd feel like trash for an hour, but it wouldn't really affect your day. You'd go about your business, and everything would be fine. Now you look at the sleeve of cookies and suddenly there's 5 pounds on your waist, you can't get rid of it, and also you feel like trash, but you didn't even touch them. It's amazing. It's like you kind of sneak up on this place and then all of a sudden it's an incurable problem. Well, I'm there with you. I feel it entirely. And so I decided it was time to enlist the help of real experts, people who are dedicating their lives to really nailing down what's going on with a woman's body. Now, there's a few other people I want to talk to, but today's guest is an amazing soul. She's got it kind of locked down. She understands exactly what's going on. She's trying to help people through that. And everybody's at a different stage, which is really kind of the maddening beauty of it all, right? Like it doesn't affect everyone the same. So there's no scientific method to this worked for Susie, so it's going to work for Becky too. So understanding that, we talked to Cara Michele, who has really dedicated her life to helping women feel stronger inside and out by blending acupuncture and nutrition and mindset coaching and so much more. Mind you, I've tried all of these things this year, so it's been kind of a crazy year. But that said, she's been breaking down barriers, reclaiming health, and taking control of life for women all over the planet. Now, a lot of what we talk about today is stuff that you can implement tonight. So it's a really kind of an opportunity for you to kind of get in that headspace, start taking care of yourself, and also changing everything about how you feel inside and out, and hopefully for the better. That's the plan, right? So grab your coffee, grab your wine, whatever you want to roll with. Here we make no judgments, and settle in. Get ready to be inspired. Cara Michele's journey of healing and empowerment is now yours. But all right, great. Well, I'm glad that you decided to join us today, and I'm looking forward to everything that we're here to talk about. It's such an interesting topic. I think mostly because when you get to this point in life, it seems like you've taken care of your kids, you've taken care of your family, your career, whatever. The last thing that you take care of on any given day is yourself.
That's right.
So I wanted to start just kind of how did you get into this particular niche of self-care and what brought you to this? Kind of tell us your story a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Wendy. I grew up, as many of us did, watching the important women in my life just, taking care of everybody, just giving. I often tell the story, my mom is the oldest girl of 7 children, and she grew up taking care of her siblings, her younger siblings. Like they thought that she was their mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much she was caring for them while my grandmother was out working. And so when as I grew up, we would have my grandmother live with us. So we were the place that everybody came for the holidays. And I just watched my mom like running around like crazy. And there was something inside me that was like, I thought that was great that she was able to love on them so much. Uh, and like she wasn't sleeping, and when you have people over, when you have a big family event, that starts days ahead of time.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're doing, you're doing laundry, you're cleaning all the guest rooms, you're getting your menu together, shopping, all these things while working a full-time job, raising 2 kids, taking care of her mom, and she had a big job, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when everybody arrived, it was, making sure that meals were together and, doing laundry and taking people who had health issues. It was a lot. And she was like barely sleeping. And
Hmm.
I was excited to think that, oh, this is going to be my job at one point. I'm going to be able to love and take care of my family, and they're going to think about me the same way they think about her. But on the other side, man, I hated it. To be perfectly honest, I hated it because she was like, I just looked at her and I could see how tired and worn out she was.
Hmm.
And it just, and there was a part of me as a young person who thought, well, if I don't help her, then maybe she'll stop. She won't be able to, like, that was my rationale in the moment, right? But so, fast forward, 20, 30 years. And when got out of graduate school, my business coach, asked me, who is it that you want? And it had to be women's health.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've been in practice. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, a functional nutrition counselor, and personal trainer. And my focus is on midlife women. And I'm seeing them do the exact same things. And so it's never that folks don't know what to do to take care of themselves. All the women I talk with, they're all go-getters, right? They're running companies and doing this and doing that, right? And uh, directors of this and that and the other, and taking care of family. And they've got their parents that are starting to need support. So they've got a lot going on, and they're smart women. So it's never that they don't know what to do. It's making the leap over to being able to do it consistently. That's the piece that I see as the big deal. And so, I'm just devoted to helping women fill that gap in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great mission. I think, while there's like you mentioned that women know what to do, but I think that it's interesting that there's so little information for women to build on. And so understanding diet and nutrition and, even, what pills to take, when you're not feeling well, what do you take and how do you do it? And I think, when I was younger, homeopathy seemed like a really great way to go. I don't know why it just kind of drew me in and I was like, okay, well, we'll take the teas and we'll do the things.
Yeah.
But as we get further and further in our awareness of the universe that we live in and find out that, maybe Big Pharma doesn't have our best interest in mind. Maybe doctors haven't really studied what's the healthiest way to stay strong after 50. As we find out new information, I think I'm curious, what have you come across that you've realized was told to you one way and you learned it's the opposite? And how are you kind of bridging that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always want to remind clients that I'm, that middle aged when they are, right? So my journey is very much like them, trying to sort through the information. And I think that, I had thought a lot about becoming a medical doctor, but I was lucky to be around some folks who helped me understand what that life is really like. What is it that they're really able to offer, right? And certainly, I've had a thyroid condition of my own, and I did a lot of natural remedies that helped me tremendously, but I ended up using medication. So I just say that to say that I don't have any problems with medical
Right.
interventions when you need them, right?
Mhm.
So I never, because I hear sometimes people taking one side or the other, and I'm not sure that that's
No,
helpful.
your leg gets cut off, you go to the doctor. That's go
Yeah,
get help.
go get some help, right? If you need that kind of help. But here's the thing that I think gets missed because we tend to lean one side or the other. We are made of trillions of cells, trillions with a capital T, right? I'm just always floored by that number. Something like 30 or 40 trillion cells. And those cells need a particular environment in order to operate optimally. So those cells come together to make our brain. Those cells come together to make our joints. Those cells come to make our digestive tract. Like it's all of that, right? And so the piece that I think gets missed is that if those cells are not getting what they need, we're going to feel tired. We're going to feel weak. We're going to feel like we got brain fog. We're not going to be able to digest our food well. A lot of bloating and belching. We're not going to have the mental and physical energy that we're looking for. And that's what I think it all boils down to. The only reason it matters whether we are not sleeping well or our back is hurting is because it zaps our energy. It takes us away from being the person that we want to be at the levels that we want to be.
Hmm.
So it removes that ability to have that mental and physical energy at the levels that we're excited about. So making sure that we take care of our cellular health, giving them the environment that we're looking for, is the piece that I think is often missing.
So let's dive into that. When you're talking about cellular health, you're not talking about eating cheeseburgers and hoping for the best. So what is that? What exactly does that mean to you? Like break that down a little bit for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are 7 foundations for the cellular health, right? and I just call those the 7 foundations of health and wellness, right? So, and the thing is, again, everybody knows, right? If we were to stop a handful of women crossing the street on the corner there and say, well, what do you need to do to take care of yourself? They would rattle this list off that
Hmm.
we already know. So we all know that we need to be fully hydrated. We know we need to exercise and stretch regularly. We know that we need to eat nutritious food. We know we need to get good sleep, right? We know the list. We know the list.
Hmm.
So what because the health and wellness industry has gotten very complicated. We can reach out and grab lots of information, and there are lots of folks who want to share their information. Some of those folks have our best interest in mind, and some people don't, right? So it can be very confusing, and it can look like all I need to do is take this pill. All I need to do is do that particular exercise routine. But the thing is, it's not like that. You can't just do the one. We need all of them. And I know that that can feel like, well, what are you talking about, Carmen? I already told you. You already said I don't have a lot of time.
Hmm.
And so that scares people off, I think. But here's the thing: we don't need to do all of these things for an hour a day.
Right.
We just need to do them in small bites, but do them regularly.
Okay, so let's go through the seven. What are the seven?
Yeah, great. So exercise and stretching.
Hmm.
Everybody knows that, right? I like to lump those two together.
And what's a normal, I mean, like, let's get into each one of them. So what is a normal amount of exercise? Because sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I closed my rings, but all I did was walk the dog. So does that count? Or are we talking like, do I need to go and, strength training is one thing that women over 50 kind of shy away from because we were told we don't need it. And I'm fascinated now to learn that maybe that's the best thing we can do.
Yes. I always cringe. I was just talking with a client Tuesday, and she said to me, well, Cara Michele, well, what does strength training look like for women versus men? And I was like, it took me a second, right? Because many of my contemporaries, in terms of women being mid-age, maybe they didn't exercise very much in high school, but they didn't
Hmm.
join the teams, right? And if they did, maybe it looked a lot different. But because internet's out there, and I mean the YouTube and all of these videos, we can think that we have to be able to lift our body weight over our head, and it's just not true. We don't need that. Not at least that's not what the average woman that I'm working with. What we want, when it comes to exercise, what we want to understand is that we want to be functional as our primary goal with strength and exercise.
Hmm.
With exercise and stretching, we want functionality. You'll see a lot of younger people jumping on boxes and lifting barbells over their head. And look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I love to exercise, so I like doing those kind of things. But I grew up doing those kind of things, right? So
Hmm.
it's easy for me. But if I didn't do those things, that would be okay. In order to be functional at 50, I'm going to be 56 on Sunday,
Oh,
right?
happy birthday.
Thank you very much. And in order to be able to do the things that are exciting and fun for me, let's say I live to be 90. These days, that's pretty typical,
Pretty
right?
normal. Hmm.
That's normal. We can say that. So I got another, 30 some years, 40 years, right? So in order to be able to not have limitations, in order to not feel like I'm afraid to get on the boat when I go to Italy,
Hmm.
right? In order
Hmm.
to not feel like I can't go up the spiral stairs in Cinque Terre,
Right.
right? Uh, I don't want to have those limitations. My wife is Irish. We went to climb Patrick, the mountain there, right?
Hmm.
So I want to be able to do that until I would prefer, Wendy, truly, I'd prefer to just keel over on my way up
Right,
when I'm
right.
95, right?
Let's go out with a bang. Like that's what
Let's
I
go
want to do.
out with a
Yeah.
bang, right? Exactly. So the exercise and stretching that I do now needs to be able to help me do that.
Right.
I don't need to be able to lift 200 pounds over my head to be able to do that.
Hmm.
So being clear in ourselves, one of the principles that I try to help clients understand is that we need to know, what vision do we have for ourselves?
Right.
So if I'm clear that that's what I want my life to be like at 80 or 90, then I can understand what kind of exercises and stretching I need to do for myself there. So in general, I suggest to folks do body weight exercises and maybe some weightlifting things. I love kettlebell work myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's you don't need a whole lot of you don't have to have the big the bell bar and all these extra plates of
Right.
weights and things around, but it's a very that hip hinge exercise is very functional, right?
Okay.
So I lead exercise classes 3 times a week. I got a great community of women who come online to do exercises in our Mighty Me exercise group. And we do a ton of body weight exercises. We do some band work and we do some kettlebell work. And it's changed people's lives. So 3 times a week, maybe a half an hour, 3 times a week is really good. If you can get a 4th time in, wonderful. But in between those, I would be doing another 20 to 30 minutes of stretching.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. That's fair. So that's number one. What's number
That's
two?
that's number one. No, nutrition. Everybody knows they need to eat better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, what does that mean? Do I
Right.
need to be a vegan? Do I need to be paleo? Do I need to only eat meat? What is this conversation nutrition, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first piece that I would encourage folks to take a look at is when you get the books. I get all the books, right? I like to be a synthesizer of information so women don't have to dig through all of it themselves, right? Here's the thing. You're nodding your head. I would imagine that you're reading a lot of stuff too. Do you notice that there's only, I think I call this the iceberg effect. So if you have an iceberg, and we'll call that paleo, we have another iceberg, we'll call that vegan, we have another iceberg, we'll call that only eating meat,
Mm-hmm.
right? The part that sticks above the water, that's the differentiator between the three,
Right.
right? So above the water is that you're not eating meat over here for being a vegan, right? But when you dig into their information, when you read through the books, when you watch the full videos on YouTube, not just the shorts, but you listen to all of it, they're going to say the exact same thing. They're going to say, watch your processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, make sure you're eating plenty of vegetables and fruits and vegetables, right? Making sure that you're getting plenty of protein. So what I want to suggest is that the differentiator just makes them different. It doesn't make those scientifically proved. They are proven to give people energy and support them. All three of those different types of eating patterns. But it's the part underneath that I think that helps the people the most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that we're doing those things, right? Look, our cells, again, they need a certain level of nutrition. And you're not going to get those very much of that, the nutrition from hamburgers and French fries every day,
Right. Right.
or Pop-Tarts and Coke for breakfast. That's a
Dang it.
real thing. I come in and
Yeah.
you know, so so we want to make sure that we're eating plenty of vegetables. So you look at your plate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And here's the other principle that I think is super important. This is what allows us to make the fill in the gap. We can't go from Pop-Tarts and Coke for breakfast to having a smoothie, a green smoothie every day in one day. We can't make that transition in one day. So what we're talking about here today, please take that in the right context. You must create a health and wellness journey, a self-care consistency journey for yourself
Mm-hmm.
that is accessible to you. So that means that if 7 days a week you're having Pop-Tarts and Coke, or you're having donuts that are provided to you at work, if you're doing that pretty regularly, 5 days when you go to work, right? Then maybe you're making this change, just changing one day a week. And
Mm-hmm.
you're doing that for for a month, right? Until that having something, that smoothie one day a week is easy. You figured out the mechanics, right? Do you have the vegetables with you? What protein powders are you going to use? How are you going to blend it up? Those are all the mechanics for getting nutrition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about how are we filling that gap
Right.
between knowing and doing, right? So I just want to paint the context here for what it is, what we're talking about. So for nutrition, We know that we need to have a plate. When we look at your plate, make that plate at least 50% vegetables. You know, maybe even 75. You graduate to 75 over the next 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what are those vegetables, right? Just the basic stuff that we all know, right? You know, like learning how to make a bowl is super simple. Everybody loves bowls. Everybody goes to Chipotle, they go to Nave Fresh, all these different places, right?
Right.
So how do you do that for yourself? Well, look, maybe you go to Chipotle or you go to a Cava or Nave Fresh, and you look and see what are the things I typically get. What do I like? And then you slowly figure out how do you get those things in your home? How do you have them
Mm-hmm.
ready for yourself? Right? Is it the peppers? Is it the sunflower seeds? Is it the types of lettuce? Right? Is it the cucumber? What? Right? All of those things are going to have a ton of the micronutrients that we need, and being able to have that ready. Again, listen, I'm not saying anything that these busy, intelligent, working women don't already know. But how do you do it? How do you get it in front of yourself? When we're hungry, you need to be able to reach over, boom, and get what it is that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Or you need to know exactly what you're going to get from the local place, right? Or maybe using a food service. And so it arrives already prepared and you've got it in your lunch pail and you go and you put it in the microwave or whatever it is. That's the critical time when we have to have nutritious food ready when we're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You mentioned, getting the right nutrients. A lot of people are pushing, and the market is huge now that we've got like TikTok and Instagram. I mean, it's like everybody's got something, but there's a lot of supplements on the market. As far as finding, you can have easily spend hundreds of dollars on monthly supplements, getting this pill and that pill and whatnot. Are there any supplements that you like? And what are you looking for? Because not everyone, some of them are cost prohibitive. Some people, want to do the right things, but, that one's $200 a month and this one's, 75. So I'm going to do the 75. What are your recommendations there?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a functional nutrition counselor and I do make recommendations for supplementation. The one thing that I always start off telling clients is that there's two different forks and ideations when it comes to supplementation. One is a whole food product,
Hmm.
and one is more an isolate or in synthetic products, right? So it's nice to know that have that information when you're looking. A whole food product is going to have literal foods on the label, right?
It's tricky.
Right? I mean, when you think about, the word supplement, like what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to supplement your diet, right? It's not, but because we're so busy, we want to lean on those, right? We
Mhm.
still want to have the ho-hos and the Coke for breakfast, but then I'll fix it by taking a supplement. Like if we stop for a second, we know that that's not really the way to go about things,
I mean,
right?
I believe that really strongly until I think I was about 25, and then I was like, maybe this isn't the best choice.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, right. So, look, there's a lot of supplements out there, and it would be really tricky for me to say exactly what folks need. In general, women, I just think that my personal belief, my professional belief is that having a good multivitamin is very useful, right?
Mhm.
For hormonal support, there are certain products there. But here's the thing. This is what I want to implant, right? Data is your friend. Data is your friend. We are terrible at guessing where we are, what it is we're eating on a regular basis, how much water am I drinking, how much sleep did I get, all of that kind of stuff. And luckily, technology is making it super easy for us to understand the truth of what we're doing. And so with my clientele, I always encourage them to get a good food logging system
Mhm.
and learn to do that, right? We use a system called Chronometer, and you can punch in your food one time, and if that's something that you eat regularly, which we all do, we think that we have this crazy variety, various diet, but if you stop and think about it, we got about 150 things that we're doing eating regularly, right? But once it's in there, you don't have to punch it in again. You can just pull it, you can just get it to go. So it makes it super easy to understand. And I like this particular system because it's made for nutritionists to work with their folks and nutrition counselors. And it tells you very clearly what nutrients you're missing.
Nice.
So
Nice.
if you find that you're getting a pretty nutritious diet because it says so, not because I just think that I am, but it's telling me my iron levels are good, my zinc levels are good, it's telling me what, but I'm missing calcium
Right.
regularly, right? Then I can find a good whole food calcium product or talk or consult with someone, and that'll help me fill in the gaps.
Great. So let me
So
ask you a question that just kind of popped in. If you don't mind me interrupting, I apologize.
please,
So I've kind of noticed as I get older, and I've talked to some friends and they've kind of noticed this as well. Like obviously nutritional needs change.
mm,
So as you get older, like, you hit 45, and get up a little closer to 50, and then you hit 50, and then you get, it seems like your body craves different things. Your body wants different things. So in looking at that, does it adjust for age calculation? Does it adjust for, that the shifts and needs that you have as you get older? Because obviously as you get older and your bone density kind of fizzles away a little bit, that calcium becomes much more important than it was at 20.
it does. It does.
Awesome.
And my target audience are between 45 and 65,
Hmm.
right? So it allows us to make those adjustments. And I'm so glad that you actually brought that up, like that our needs, our wants, our desires, they shift over time. And so, but this is one of the places that, again, this mentality that allows us to get stuck. I have, I can't even say how many clients I've worked with over the last 20 years who wake up one day, they listen to a podcast or they read a magazine article or something strikes them and they're like, whoa, I need to start taking care of myself. I'm a martial artist. I lead and structure a martial artist group, and I was just having a text conversation with one of my students who I would say she's probably early 40s.
Hmm.
Um, and she was telling me that she's had a problem with her heel, and she's been training for to run an 8K
Hmm.
race, right? Um, but you know what? The thing is that when fit, and even for her, like let's just go back 10 years, like doing the training that she's doing now wouldn't have been a problem at all, right? And but when you wake up to the fact that you want to start taking care of yourself, maybe the kids are off at college or whatever it is, things have changed, and I got room and time for myself. We automatically go back to who we used to be when we're deciding what it is we're going to do.
Oh, I like that you said that. I think that's because I think that's an honest, like it's an introspective truth. Like you
Yeah,
just you you want to go back to where you remember that you were taking care of yourself. You want to go back to where you remember you had the ability to do all of the things that now you want to do because you have the time for you.
that's right. That's right. And we have a vision of who we want it to be. And maybe the last time we sat still to really cultivate and clarify that vision, maybe that was when we were younger also.
Hmm.
Right? So we're pulling on this. We have a time now to kind of think about, oh, I want to take care of myself. And we automatically go in the past and try to pull all of that stuff forward. And some of that's going to be useful for us and some of it's not. We, as cellular beings, right? Our cells are constantly regenerating. For women, it's every 7 years based on the health of the cell previous to it. So when you start to add all of those what's the word uh,
Evolutions.
evolutions of seven, right? Like we haven't been doing a whole lot for the last 20 or 25 years to take care of ourselves. Our cells are they're not what they used to be, is what I want to say, right?
Right, right.
And so we have to be honest about that. Whenever we're starting new self-care practices, it's really beneficial to be honest about our starting point, not what we want our starting point to be. Where are we now,
Hmm.
right? If you're having trouble walking up the stairs, right? Meaning that your knees are hurting, your hips are hurting, right? When you get at the top, you're breathing heavy. There's the sign, there's the symptom, right? Our body is trying to say, it's not trying to say, I can't do this. It's not trying to say that. What it is trying to say is, right now, this is where I am. I can get you over here, but we need to take our time getting from here to there,
Right, right.
right? And so
True.
just being aware of that. So many times clients believe that their bodies are against them because now they want to go do the thing. They
Hmm.
want to take the trip and they're having trouble with that. But that's only because there's been a big gap. When we're younger, we're running around and doing this. We were on a cheer squad, or we were on the basketball team, or we're doing whatever in college, right? Traveling, da 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 da. But soon as we started to have more responsibility, I call that collecting keys, right? At some point, right?
Right. That's
Right?
accurate.
Start,
Yeah.
yeah. You start to get more keys on your ring. So there's a space between where we are and where we want to be,
Hmm.
right? And so we just have to acknowledge that and let that be okay. Don't try to force ourselves over, where we want to be. Give your body a chance. Our bodies, Wendy, this is how I think about my body, and I think this might be useful to others, to the viewers. I want to think about my body like a puppy, right? Like when you get a puppy or a brand new baby, right? Human baby. They're both babies, and
Hmm.
they're always trying to tell us stuff, right? But we don't. In the beginning, we don't understand what the grunts and the groans and the cries we don't know exactly what is being communicated, what the needs are.
Right.
But our physical body, our cells are the same, right? There's no flag that goes up to say, "Oh, I'm dehydrated," right? But there are signs and symptoms.
Hmm.
So wouldn't it be really wonderful if we were to able to clue in, zero in, and understand those signs and symptoms? What is it that's being asked for? And I want to say that it is my professional belief that those signs and symptoms are asking for one of the 7 foundations that we're going through, that we're talking about.
Hmm.
If we're able to connect, I have joint pain, my knees are hurting when I run up the steps, or I'm out of breath when I get up the steps. It's going to be one or two of those things, right? Is it that I need more exercise and stretching? Is that what the cells are asking for? Is it that I'm dehydrated,
Hmm.
right? When I'm dehydrated, my knees hurt like crap all the time, right? So I don't go to my body is just falling apart and I'm never going to be able to have the life that I want. I go to, let me check how much water I've had today,
Fair
right?
enough.
And
Yeah.
that and being able to make those connections, a sign, a symptom, one of the 7 foundations, when you can make those connections and you can do that easily for yourself, that's power.
Hmm.
That puts us back in the driver's seat. Now we get to dictate the level of mental and physical energy that we want to have and need to have every day. We get to be a master energy producer
Hmm.
versus, oh, well, I don't really know what's going on. And I'm feeling sad for myself. And the doctor is the only one who knows how to help me. And that's being the victim side. I
Right.
want myself and I want to share with women. I'm just so crazy passionate about this. Most of the signs, the symptoms that come into my clients that come in with symptoms, it can be corrected with one of these 7. We
Hmm.
can really clear it up. I'm not saying it's everything. Again, if we need medications or surgery, let's do it.
Right.
But why wouldn't we want to make sure that we've covered the foundations first
Hmm.
before we take that leap?
I think that's important. I think, you talk to a lot of people, and especially at this age, when there's such an emotional shift, right? Your family's kind of empty nested you, or, maybe you've gone through a divorce, maybe, you've lost a job, whatever the situation is, you go through these things, you get to this point, and you start feeling depression, but you don't really key into, okay, yes, something major happened, but what else is going on? Where else is it deeper? I think a lot of people skip that and then go straight to antidepressants. They go to sleep aids. They go to, oh, I've gained some weight. I'm going to throw in some Ozempic and see what happens there. I get the quick fix. Like I want it too, but I think it's important to kind of cover all those. We haven't gone through the seven and we keep referring to it. So maybe we should go through the seven and then we'll circle back on what they all mean.
Absolutely. So we talked about nutrition, we
Hmm.
talked about exercise and stretching, hydration. There, I can't tell you how many times a client has come in feeling, I think I have a anxiety disorder, Cara Michele, right? So tell me what the symptoms are. Well, my heart palpitations and I just can't catch my breath sometimes and my brain is all over the place. How's your water? About 20, 30 ounces a day. Okay, let's take the next couple weeks. Listen, go to your doctor. Let's make sure there's nothing bigger happening. But in the meantime, let's start increasing your water,
Hmm.
right? When they get the water up, a lot of these symptoms go down. So hydration is crazy important. Then we want to make sure that we have good stress management techniques on at the ready, right?
Punching bags included.
What's that?
I said punching bags included.
Punching bag? Oh, yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Are you
Give me a
kidding
heavy
me?
bag.
For sure. I look, sometimes you just need to get it out, right?
Mhm.
Punching bags. I even, if you're by yourself in the car, howling and just letting it go, move it through. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, the energy in the body is needs to move. And if it gets stuck, if we try to hold on to it, if we think that we're not able or allowed to express ourselves, if we're not able to say what's really on our minds or on our hearts, and we hold it in, it's just going to keep moving and rolling inside us. And that could be the root of a lot of bigger issues and disease states,
Mhm.
right? So, and I also want to say that stress management is kind of like nutrition. There's a point, a moment when you get hungry that you need to be able to get the food, right? You're going to make a decision because you need to fuel yourself, right? So
Right.
if either you have the nutritious food or you know how to get it quickly or you don't. Same thing with stress management techniques or even distress tolerance techniques, right? Either you have the technique ready and you know how to use it, you know how to implement it, or
Mhm.
you don't. So we have to have some practice and rhythm with those things, right? If you're going to use breath work, which I highly recommend, you need to be able to practice that so that when you're walking down the hall from your office into this stressful meeting, you can actually employ that breathing pattern right then and there,
Mhm.
right? Or you get finished with a difficult conversation can do is it will it pop to your mind that you can go out and walk around the building for a minute, clear your mind, get some sunlight on your skin, do some breathing out there, right?
Right.
Or maybe you're in the middle of the meeting and something's being said and this whole thing's going in the wrong direction. Can you do some doodling as a stress management technique,
Mhm.
right? So you have to be able to pull those out right then and there, right?
Right. Right.
Okay,
And I think
so
to be
here's another
fair,
big one.
in that you have to recognize your own internal triggers, right? So when you hear those triggers or feel those triggers, you have to be able to recognize that you're about to be set off. Because not everybody, I know a lot of people
That's
are
right.
like, well, I'm going to go to yoga. I'm going to go to yoga and that'll be in 5 hours and I'll be fine in 5 hours. Well, you don't have 5 hours. You have like right this second. So you need to settle down,
Yes.
the Hulk right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that because everything we say and do comes from the mental and physical energy that we have in the moment, right? And so when we're stressed, are we going to say and do something that we're going to regret?
Usually,
Are we going
yeah.
to create a situation for ourselves that we have to go back and clean up later,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So again, noticing those signs and symptoms. What are they for me? right? That's what you're saying. And
Hmm.
then what am I going to put in play right now so that I can help myself
Right. Right. To
show
really,
up the way
again,
that I
to your
really want?
point, take control of yourself and know yourself. Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another one of the seven foundations of health and wellness is sleep. If I had to rank these in order, especially for this demographic, sleep is something that we will push to the side and delegate for our future
Hmm.
selves.
Hmm.
Super easy. It is easy to put that off, right? But here's the thing: cellular health, right? We need that rejuvenation time. We need that restorative repair time. We need to give our brains a break. The
Hmm.
brain needs to be able to uh, downcharge for a little bit so that we will, again, when we're ready, we can be at a level that we really want to be. So sleep is crucial for this group and something that is very easy to overlook.
Hmm. Hmm. So and again,
Yeah.
that goes back to, personal need, right? So like I'm an 8 hour sleeper. I like my sleep. But,
Mhm.
sometimes some people are better with 4, some people are better with 9, however that works. How do you know when you've gotten a good night's sleep? I assume just you feel good, like, right?
Yeah. Well, again, the technology can really help us out a lot, right? We can put in our age group, right? And say, and it automatically reads. I happen to use the Whoop,
Hmm.
and I just love it. And that's one of the first things I do in the morning is kind of check how did I do, right? So that helps me know whether I need to go to bed a little bit earlier, if I need to tweak my bedtime routine, all of that. I hear people saying that they're great on 4 hours of sleep. And I always listen deeply when I try to listen deeply all the time, but I'm leaning in a little bit more, right?
Hmm.
I haven't met a woman yet who only needs 4 hours of sleep.
I agree.
Do they get things done? Sure. Do they get by? Sure. But is that truly what they want their life to look like? That they're just getting by, right? Are they doing self harm? In the end, I say yes, 100%,
Hmm.
right? The average woman needs somewhere around 7.5 to 8, even 9 hours of sleep.
I'll take 10 if
And
you give it to me.
when, what's
Yeah.
that?
Said I'll take 10 if you give it to me.
Right? Absolutely. Here's the thing with these seven foundations. If you're doing something, if you're doing some of these things and you're doing them to a smaller extent, you really don't know what life is like when you pick up the pace a little bit, when you drink more water, when you exercise a little more, when you get more sleep. You really don't have a context to say, I feel better over here or I don't.
Hmm.
So there needs to be a willingness to experiment a little bit. And this is, I created the Strength and Vitality Accelerator to do that, to help women see what is it that I really need for myself, right? So that we can now set up our self-care routines so that we are doing the absolute best for ourselves, not because I heard it on a podcast or Cara Michele said so, but because I've experienced that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've experienced that I do so much, my brain is so much clearer. I have less aches and pains when I'm at 7.5 regularly than I was when I was at 4.
Hmm.
Right. So again, tracking, having data, and be willing to try different things, but do that over time. Make the shifts, small shifts over time. That's really the framework that I've created to help women do this, find out what's best for themselves because they feel better,
Hmm.
but do that in a way that doesn't interfere with all that they're trying to take care of and handle in a day.
Sure, sure. I totally agree.
Yeah.
What do you do when, someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I really tried. I tried to, I went to bed at the right time. Cleared my room, turned all the buzzers off, turned off the TV. 3 a.m. I woke up and I did it every night for a week, every night for 3 weeks, every night for a year. How do you, what are your recommendations for in it? I don't know if it's hormonal. I don't know, but like 3 o'clock, man, I'm up. So, What are your recommendations to get back to sleep, to kind of keep that pace and that flow?
Yeah, this is thanks for the question. This is something that's going to resonate with a ton of your listeners because I hear it a lot in my office. So first, there's three environmental pieces that we want to make sure that we've covered when we're thinking that we've done everything we can for the room that we're sleeping in. Number one, we need the room to be quiet, right? I mean, think about it. Like there's something genetic in us that has us always kind of listening.
Hmm.
Like you hear your kids laugh,
Survival.
or the baby's crying, or
Hmm.
the whatever it is, right? So we are always my wife. She can hear when the smallest things click on, right? It's just like, are you actually sleeping? You heard that, like so.
Hmm.
So we're very sensitive. So we just gotta just accept that that's the truth. So if the kids are gone and you don't have anybody that is going to pop up in the middle of the night that you need to worry about, I'm just going to suggest earplugs of some sort, right? Maybe there's some low meditative type music that's playing, right?
Hmm.
Something that is going to block out the cars and the this and whatever, all those kind of things. So even the ambient sounds, like even the furnace
Hmm.
kicking on and those kind of things, right? We could be sensitive to hearing that. So we want super quiet. Human beings are going to sleep better with these three things. Quiet. We need the room to be cool. Like when I went through menopause, just all of a sudden, like my temperature just changed, and I had a thyroid concern that popped up in 2020. Again, my temperature changed, right?
Hmm.
So I had heard that women needed to be cooler, but I didn't have that experience until I went through these things. So, I was just having this conversation yesterday with a client who's saying like she just wakes up a lot, but she's thinking that her husband is just like a furnace on its own,
Right.
right? And so what do we need to do? Like we talked about, can we drop the temperature a bit
Hmm.
in the house, right? So people are surprised with what it is I'm about to say, but somewhere around 65, 67 degrees tends to be scientifically proven to be a nice temperature for most women, right? Most people like to have some cover, some kind of blanket,
Some weight.
over them,
Hmm.
right? So bring the temperature down and then cover up and see how that helps, right? The third thing for sleeping environments in general is that it's dark. So, or do you live and there's a street light outside your house, right? Do you
Hmm.
have a bunch of electronics on that are beeping and flashing, all of that, right? Is there, uh, I don't know.
Right.
We need
The
it to be
things.
dark,
Hmm.
right? I have clients that work night shifts or evening shifts. Get those blackout curtains, right? Make it dark for yourself. So if we can do those three things, that often helps tremendously, right?
Nice.
So specific to my midlife female clients, um, the brain. The brain is just going, right? It's impossible to get good sleep if you're thinking.
Dang it.
they don't they don't go together, right?
Right.
If you're processing, if you're trying to remember, if you're trying to hold on to stuff so that you don't forget it for the next day. So one of the best tips that's worked for me to share with clients for 20 years is have time where you are downloading all of this information someplace safe.
Hmm.
So, my wife and I, we are often doing a little sharing, how did the day go? So you kind of get this stuff out. Again, energy, these
Hmm.
memories, um, thinking, that's energy in the brain, right? And it's just going to keep rolling around in there. So speaking it or writing, journaling
Hmm.
gives us an opportunity to move it out of our system, out of our physical body, and put it someplace else. So being able to debrief, either in writing or speaking, is very useful. But then there's the checklist items, right? Oh yeah, I got to remember this for the meeting, or I got to take care of that and this and that. Oh, I got to remember to tell this person that. All of these different things. Write them down.
Hmm.
Have a pad, paper near the bed, or myself. I have a pad and paper on my vanity in the bathroom. So while I'm brushing my teeth and doing my flossing for my nighttime routine, oh yeah, let me just, and I'm writing it down, and then I'm brushing, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me write this down, right?
Mm-hmm.
That way you know it's someplace safe. It sounds so simple, but it is tremendous. The reason that we're thinking these things through is because we don't want to forget them,
Right.
right? And there's something about the conversation that felt okay or didn't feel okay, and I should probably say this tomorrow when I see them again or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm brilliant 4 hours after the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just put it someplace safe, and you'll have it for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The other tip that I want to offer this group particularly is to choose sleep. Understand its value to you. Again, everything we say and everything we do is going to come from the mental and physical energy we have in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So staying up late, toiling over what happened and why did and all of these things keeps us from our bodies and our brains from having that energy when we get out of bed the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really tricky to generate more energy when we're running.
Right.
So what you have oftentimes, I'm not saying it's impossible, but often, more often than not, what you have when you get started in the morning, the level, how full your battery is, your mental battery and your physical battery. When you leave the house in the morning, that's pretty much what you have during the day. So if we are, sometimes we want to stay up, we want to watch the show, we want to scroll on social media, we want to, catch up with a friend, right? Whatever it is, we're not prioritizing and choosing sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just say to ourselves, I do this all the time. This is what I say to myself. Cara Michele, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll handle that tomorrow. Right now is time for sleep. I
I
say
like
that
that.
to myself regularly.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's something that I just, yeah, but get up, grab the paper, write it down real quick, right? And then, okay, now it's time for sleep. You need this. Tomorrow is this, and you need this. So right now, that's not the time for that conversation. That's what I say to myself. I literally say that. Right now, it's time for sleep.
I like that. I like that a lot because it makes the awareness that you know there's an issue, but also the awareness that it's not the time for it. So you almost are controlling your headspace, which I think is a lot of people don't do, and they need to,
Yeah, yeah,
myself included.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We have more, we have way more providence and control is a great word over our journey than we
Hmm.
want to give ourselves credit for.
Right. And I don't want to go too, metaphysical and too woo on you, but like I think there's something to be said about the healthier and more nutritious your food is, the clearer your thought process is because your body isn't trying to fight all the crud that's in there. And so you get a mental clarity the clearer you get. When you exercise, you get a clearer mental picture. When you eat well, you get a clearer mental picture. When you drink well, you get a clearer mental picture. So all of those things lay into that space of it's easier to go to bed at night because you're already thinking more optimally and you've optimized your body throughout the whole day. So that sleep is just kind of like, okay, now I'm done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree
Cool.
wholeheartedly. So the last two of the seven foundations are having a strong digestive system and having balanced blood sugar.
Hmm. But I think that, but those are, those sound like little big things, right? So having a good gut health, people are like, great, do I feed it? Does it want, do I like, does it need sunshine? Let me give it some sunshine. What do you do to get good gut health?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer that question by saying that there is a synergy between all seven of these foundations of health and wellness,
Hmm.
right? So that's important. I want to go back to earlier when I said that sometimes people feel, immediately overwhelmed when I say we have to get all seven of these going. But the thing to remember is that they don't have to work independently of one another. They
Right.
work together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so just like if you start to exercise slowly, you start to build up your exercise routine, you will want to drink more water.
Mm-hmm.
You will want to go to bed a little earlier, right? So you don't have to just think singularly, I got to force myself to go to bed. If you are exercising, it will help two or three of these others kind of get going in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the same with strong digestion and balanced blood sugar, right? So a lot of times people don't, let's take the blood sugar one, right? This is important to me, and has a special place in my heart because diabetes is very big in my family on both sides, my maternal and paternal sides of my family. So blood sugar, people think that it's just about eating sugar, right? Because of the name, it's really easy to
Right.
think that. But stress will cause you to have blood sugar spikes just as much as a donut, right?
Fair.
See, what we don't understand, again, this is part of the reason that I put together this Strength and Vitality Accelerator process, because I think if we have a little bit of education, clear education about how our bodies work,
Mm-hmm.
then we can make better conscious decisions in the moment, right? So here's the quick skinny on blood sugar. When we were all cave people, and we heard, you and I are walking along, right, on wherever through the forest, dragging our clubs. If we heard a mountain lion roar, we would think, oh, okay, come on, Wendy, we got to get out of here, right? So we would take off running, right? So when that happens, we produce a lot of stress hormones to be able to prepare our minds and our bodies for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happens is our blood sugar in our body increases. We pull a little bit from the liver, we pull a little bit from the muscles, and we have more energy to be able to run, right? But that's only supposed to last for a short period of time, right? We ran into the cave, we ran and got up the tree, the mountain lion circled a few times, and then he went on about his business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to last a certain amount of time, and then our our stress hormones are supposed to decline and come back down, right? But guess what? Our body doesn't know the difference between being chased by a mountain lion or being late for a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
or realizing we forgot a slide on the meeting, the report we have for the meeting, right? Or we didn't make the cupcakes for the PTA meeting, or whatever it is.
Right.
And guess what, Wendy? We're not stressed over one thing for a short period of time during the day. We're stressed all day long.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You wake up in the morning remembering things that we didn't do, right? It's like shooting out the gate, right?
Right.
That's part of the reason why we didn't sleep well, because we got all this stuff going on, right?
Right. Right.
So having those stress hormones be in a high level in our bloodstream causes our blood sugar to come up. And so if we understand what are going to trigger blood sugar dysregulation, then we can make better decisions for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? We already know that if we're eating a lot of sugar and carbohydrates and any foods that are going to break down quickly to turn the glucose in the system, once we understand how that process works, don't make it complicated. We don't need to get into mitochondria health. We don't need to get too deep, right? Just that if I'm eating these foods and I don't burn them, carbohydrates, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. It drives me crazy when I listen to a YouTube video or hear people talking about how bad they are. They are not bad, but you must understand that they are a fuel.
Mm-hmm.
They're a fuel. We have two fuel systems. We have carbohydrates and we can burn fats for fuel, right? So a lot of people lean over on the keto diet, right? And again, like we were saying earlier, all of these different eating plans, the iceberg effect,
Right.
it's the bottom that's the most important.
But I think a lot of people get in the headspace of carbohydrates are white. So you've got bread, you've got pasta. You can get carbohydrates from your fruits and vegetables too. So there's no need to go and eat a bowl of pasta to cover your carb load, right? You can
Absolutely.
still do really well without touching all the bad things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, there are some foods that I would suggest the average midlife woman kind of try to stay away from the majority of the time. And I always want to emphasize that. Look, I want to have an exciting, happy life. I
Hmm.
want to travel.
I want
There
to
are
eat the
restaurants
things.
opening up, right? I go and get invited to people's houses. I don't want to be picky and make them not want me to come over again next time because I can't eat half the things, right? So I don't want, we never want to set ourselves up for deprivation or difficulty,
Hmm.
right? But those are special occasions, right? I'm not eating at the fancy restaurants every day, right? But if I get invited someplace and I want to go and hang out with friends and there's whatever on the table and I want to try it, great, right? I
Hmm.
don't want to be in a fuss and in a tight with myself about it. But on the average, there are certainly some foods that I think we don't need. Why do I think that we need to watch our carbohydrates in general? Because they're our fuel.
Hmm.
And if we aren't needing the fuel, what are we trying to fuel? We're trying to fuel our cells. Back to the cellular health, right? And if those cells don't need all of the fuel that we're taking in, it's got to go somewhere. And guess where it goes?
Usually between my
Carbohydrates turn into
here to
adipose
here.
tissue. That's right. That's the fancy name for fat,
Hmm. Hmm.
adipose tissue, right? So, and guess what? The molecular makeup of that adipose tissue, the extra that we have, it produces its own hormones. So then it can throw us off even more. So if we're trying to have high levels of mental and physical energy when we need it, when we want it, on the regular, we don't want to have a ton of extra fuel or glucose floating around in our bloodstream because that's the body's got to figure out what to do with that. You know, the I'm sure your listeners have heard of metabolic syndromes or um, glucose intolerance, all of those. These are metabolic issues, and diabetes is one of those, right? But so is heart disease and lots of other things that can come from having more fuel in our system than we need.
Hmm.
If you are a person, you know, Michael Phelps is from the area where I am, right? And so everybody always talks about his exercise when he was in the Olympics and training for the Olympics. You know, this guy, you know, he's young, number one, right?
Right.
And he's
He's
male.
male.
So more muscle mass, right? Needs more
Hmm.
fuel in general, right? So we can't compare what we're eating to what our partners or our husbands are eating, right? So that those two different things, right? But you know what? He was exercising something like 6 or 8 hours a day,
Hmm.
right? Like real deal exercising.
That's
So
his
he was
job.
eating like 6,000, 7,000 calories a day. His cells needed the level of fuel that he was giving,
Hmm.
right? So we want, again, here's where the data helps us. What actually am I doing during the day that's going to cause my cells to need more fuel?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if we understand how the cells work in the body and what it is we need to give them the correct environment and what's going to cause them to not have the correct environment, you know, that is metabolic syndrome and um, what is it? Insulin uh, insulin spikes.
Hmm.
Those are the wrong environment for the cells. So we want to understand what are we doing that helps them and what hurts them, right?
Hmm.
Then we can start to make better decisions for ourselves.
Right. Right. So there's two things that we haven't talked about that I'm kind of curious about. And I know I'm looking through your website and you know obviously you're on top of it, so I want you to have an opportunity to speak about it. But one thing that's not on your list is relationship health and how that plays into all of it. Because I think you know, and not just necessarily, you know, I know a lot of single women, but I also know a lot of women in interesting relationships. I also know a lot of, you know what I mean? Like everybody's got their own story and that's fine. But it's not just, you know, you and your partner, it's you and the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I'm not a therapist, so I don't tend to lean on those conversations too much. Even though I do, we do talk about a lot of these things. I do talk about a lot of these things with the folks that I work with. And but I guess my way of addressing this is that statement that I made. The the everything we say and everything we do statement, right, comes
Mm-hmm.
from the mental and physical energy that we have. There's always two sides to everything. And what I've learned over the years, and I would imagine that you're the same, is that I want to first turn and look at myself. I want to understand, am I truly doing my best in this relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Am I showing up as the person that I want to be? Am I clear of what that person would say and do in these moments? Right? Here's the statement that I try to ask people to think about. If I were the woman of my dreams, who would I be?
Mm-hmm. I think
I
that's
just,
fair.
right? So if I'm honestly showing up as the person I truly want to be, when there's a difficult conversation, am I responding the way that I want to? Am I being a good listener? Do I truly understand? All of these things require energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we forget that, right? And then we end up saying or doing something that causes more difficulty for us personally, but it can strain the relationship. And I often talk about this in terms of romantic partners, but how about kids, right? Like if you have teenagers, I don't have any children, but I'm around them all the time. Uh, and I have plenty of clients that have children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I know for sure is that you get one shot.
Mm-hmm.
When they come up with that question that you didn't expect, and you're kind of in the middle of a project, right? Boom, here's the question, right? Everybody can pull one of those questions up. Here's your chance. You're either going to really understand or ask a better question back to them so you can clarify. You're going to be able to stop what you're doing and turn so that they really understand that you're there for them. You're going to be able to respond with an answer that you know is really going to take them in the direction that they're looking for, right? Or we're going to do it in uh, a way that we're going to regret later.
Right. But
And
I think
there's a way to.
that all comes back to all of your points and the seven areas to look at too. So if you're in more imbalance, like you're in a balanced state and you've been taking care of yourself, you've been eating well, you've been exercising, you feel you feel that calm because you're not in fight or flight because you're having those needs met. Then when your relationships come to you for whatever, whether it's a good or a bad or whatever the situation is, you have the bandwidth because you're not coming at a place of lack. You're not coming at it from a place of need, and your ego can be set aside. So it's not about you, it's about the question or it's about the issue. It's like a healthy kind of, you're showing up finally in like the state that you should show up, which is kind of a level state where you can engage without you being the issue.
That's right, 100%. One of the first pieces I do with clients or anyone who starts my programs is we understand what's your compelling reason for going through this process. Making changes, any changes, and maybe even particular health and wellness changes is not easy,
Hmm.
right? And that's part of the juggling, trying to figure out how do we squeeze something in or how do we do just enough to get by, right? Because it's not easy, right? And I want to say, and I do say to every woman I talk to, if you don't have something important in your life, something, a project, or something that you're passionate about, or someone that you love that needs you to be your best, that you're going to have that you will have a big influence over. If you don't have those things and those people in your life, do not bother because it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
bother. Get back on the couch, get your bag of Cheetos, and get that clicker and just hang out, right? But that's not the case. That's not the case for the women that I talk to, right? And so understanding what's going to help you leap over the hurdles that are going to show up along the way. You see, every time we go to make a decision, you open up the refrigerator, get that pan, right? I'm hungry. You grab the refrigerator handle and you open it up. You have a choice. There is a Y in the road in front of you. I'm either going to go with the known, the thing that the good and tried and true. This, I'm going to feel great when I have this, let me just get that slice of pizza that's left over, right? Whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to this direction. You can say, you know what? I know that later on my grandkids are coming by and I'm going to want to be fully energetic and ready to go. When I have pizza, I tend to feel sluggish, right? And I know that a lot of things are going to come up. They're going to half listen to me, and the parents, I got to deal with their parents, and I need
Right.
to be my best, right? So I'm going to put together this quick salad. Actually, I've already done my meal prep. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
pull it out, get my proteins on top, and drizzle my dressing, and then I'm going to have that. You got
Mm-hmm.
a choice to make. But in that moment, it's hard to not make the typical choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having what I call your compelling reasons, your you, the vision you have for yourself, the woman of your dreams, who you want to be, and then your for who, the people who deserve the best version of you.
Right.
When you can bring those two people forward, the vision of you, that person you want to be, and the person that deserves the best version of you, bring them forward in your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's easier to make the decision of the person you want to be, right? To
Right.
make the habits that you want to choose to practice the behaviors that you want to become habits for you.
Right.
So it's really useful to just understand that that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to say, I don't need to be perfect all the time with my food. I don't need to be perfect with my exercise. I don't need my digestion to be perfect all the time. But there are times when I want to be my best. So if I think through my schedule, I understand what's coming up in front of me, then I can say, you know what? I got the house to myself for the weekend. Pizza. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I haven't had pizza in a couple months. I'm having a small pan pizza for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I feel sluggish, if I feel brain dead afterwards, if I want to go to bed, if I feel grumpy, what my blood sugar is doing this, so what? No one needs you.
Mm-hmm.
No
It's
one
true.
is going to be harmed. You're not going to harm yourself and your relationships because you're that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on Sunday night, everybody's coming back from the camping trip. Let me start cleaning things up because there's stuff to unpack. I got to hear all the stories, and I got to get everybody ready for the next day, and I got a meeting myself on Monday afternoon. Blah 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 blah. Let me get back. So you want to be able to take care of yourself to the best of your ability, know exactly what it is I need to do for myself, and then be able to let loose when I want to, and understand the consequences that are going to show up in these two places, be 100% clear about that,
Mm-hmm.
and say, it's okay. So, in my programs, we go with the 85% rule. So if you're able to get some rhythm with these 7 foundations, 85% of the time, that's 85% in a day, or it's 85% in a week, or it's 85% for the month,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then you're going to be good to go. We
Mm-hmm.
don't need 100.
Mm-hmm. I like the cheat days. Cheat days are an important thing. They just kind of keep you real and you got to do the things. So the other question I had for you, and this is kind of more broad because it affects a lot of people, and I think it's just kind of looking at it from the space of from the pandemic, people, a few things happened. Some women, obviously were home for a couple years, so they put on a few pounds. Some people, have illnesses that have been born of it. There's long COVID, there's, health problems, your joints don't work as well as if you don't exercise as much, all these things. So coming out of those and taking those steps, I mean, the world can seem enormous and healthcare can seem enormous and insurmountable when you don't feel well. So what is your recommendation to them to kind of get them started and get them through that step, because sometimes people just don't know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. First I want to, I think the first thing again is to kind of acknowledge where I am. Where's my starting point,
Hmm.
right? Because we don't want to jump too fast, too far. You know, I can't. I started my exercise classes. It's called the Mighty Me Exercise Group for women 45 to 65. I started that because I had so many women tell me, they come in and it's like, yeah, I'm ready to get going, Cara Michele. Yeah. And then they go join a boot camp with a 25-year-old male at the front, and there's 50 people in the class, and everybody got a 20-pound weight, right? And it's an hour-long class. And then they come back. They're back. Not only were they not able to move the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a funny thing. We think, oh, hey, that's pretty funny. You're sore, right? But think about how interruptive that is,
Right.
right? Like literally, I've had women say, I couldn't get my feet, swing them off the bed and get on the floor, right? Like you can really overdo it. So again, you don't want to do that, right? If you say, like I need to drink more water, everybody goes from, they got a mug that they got in, that's typically what I'm drinking. And then the next thing you know, they've gone to Amazon and they got one of these, 90-ounce,
Check it off
trying to
bottles. Yeah.
pound that thing, right? Look, you're again, cellular health, that's a bad environment for the cells, right? Your kidneys that are made of all of these cells, they're not going to be able to manage that big of a leap. So being honest about where you are, that would be my first recommendation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then think like if you go through this list of the 7 foundations, and I'm going to really encourage that this kind of thinking. There's not a whole lot else that we need to focus on. If for the average woman, right? If you tell me you want to climb Mount Everest, then we need to do a different exercise
Yeah.
routine. We
Different
need a different
conversation
nutrition
entirely.
routine
Right.
for you,
Yeah.
right? But if you want to be able to get up and down off the floor, and you want to pick up the grandkids, and you want to deliver a great meeting, presentation at work, or you want to whatever, if that's where you are in your life, and you want to be able to feel, we haven't even talked about this, but if you really want to know that you're setting yourself up to have a very strong and independent life in your later years,
Mm-hmm.
then these 7 foundations at 85% are going to really help. Okay, so um, what was I saying?
We were talking about where to start. So
Where to
knowing
start?
where you're
Yeah, so
at.
knowing where you are. Oh, okay. So then choose one of the 7 that you feel like you already have some momentum with.
Mm-hmm.
Choose one that is going to be easy for you to get to monitor, able to do so that you can monitor it, and able to make small incremental changes. Meaning, my wife, we've been together for 23 years, I think.
Congratulations.
And I grew up, my family very athletic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So sports in high school and all this. Her family, no, they played in the band, and that was their extent of that, right? So when all through the years of us being together, I have suggested maybe you want to do a little more, this or do that. Yeah, she'll start something and it's not quite right for her, right? So we finally found rowing. She enjoys rowing. We got a
Mm-hmm.
rower, and she enjoys tennis, right? If she were to do the body weight routines and kettlebell work routines that I do, like it's not going to work for her,
Right.
right? So it's better for her to start with the rower. She enjoys that. Let's do 5 minutes worth of that, and let's be consistent with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have to remember that consistency is the name of the game. Just doing something here and there, that's crazy making, right? You get started with something, you do it for a couple days, and then you totally forget. I call this the health and wellness roller coaster, Wendy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
You
Been on it.
totally forget. Somebody says, "Oh, Wendy, how's that new eating plan going?" You're like, "What? Eating
Mm-hmm.
plan? What?" You like it's totally out of your consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens there? We get frustrated with ourselves. We're disappointed. Sometimes we're embarrassed because we told people that we're doing, like we don't need all of that. It's consistency is what we're looking for. So if you are consistent with 5 minutes every other day, thumbs up,
Mm-hmm.
thumbs up. Because the thing that I guarantee everyone is if they start to stretch or they exercise for 5 minutes, It's going to feel good on your body,
Hmm.
and you're going to want to do more. So that's the if you're trying to get started, pick something that's already in your purview. Don't pick the thing that's super hard for you.
Right.
Just because you saw the podcast that talked about, eating like a vegan, but like, you're already starting with ho-hos and Coke, let's not start with that one. How about if we just start moving around a little bit? You're good. You've been doing that off and on throughout the years. You can get into that. So choose the thing that you know that you can do and start off small,
Hmm.
and then increase super small again. That's the thing that we want to do. Look, we're all go-getters, right?
Hmm.
I got it, right? That picture of the
Well, we
oh,
kind of live in a hack world, right? Where everything is like the 10-minute hack. Like, I'm going to give you 7 hacks. Here's 5 hacks. Which I hate because nothing is a hack. Like, you either do it or you don't do it. The hack is this mythological success thing that happens maybe when you're 25. Maybe if you're 25 and you do all the things today, next week you're going to be exactly where you want to be. But when you get to this level, it becomes a matter of, to your point, you really have to incorporate a lot of small growths, a lot of small wins to get to that place where you want to be so that when you're 90, you can still walk, you can still be independent, you're thinking, you're clear. Those things are important, and that motivates me a lot more than my waistline today.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I think of that word hack. Maybe there are some hacks that are useful for us, but hacks are an advanced move, in my opinion.
Hmm.
If you don't have foundation with whatever the thing you're going to do, whichever one of the seven, if you don't have foundation with that, you can't hack it,
Right.
right? Because you don't already have some momentum and movement with it. There is a biochemist, a French biochemist, and I always butcher her last name. Her first name is Jessie, and she is all about blood sugar. And I love her work, her information. And she talks very clearly. She is providing hacks on blood sugar. And one of the ones that I lean on a lot and I speak to clients about after they've gotten some routine with their nutrition
Hmm.
or their blood sugar regulation, is sequential eating. So the hack is to eat your vegetables first, if it's possible, if your food's laid out this way, eat your vegetables first, and then to eat your proteins, and then to eat your carbs.
Hmm.
The idea here is that when you have the fiber here first from the vegetable, and then your proteins, and then your fats, and then your carbs, it slows down the absorption of the carbohydrates.
Hmm.
But guess what? If you're having ho-hos and Coke, you're not eating the vegetables.
Right.
So you can't use the hack,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So to your point, yeah, like a lot, like again, like a lot of the information that's out there, maybe people are really trying to help you, and maybe they're not, they're just providing information to make the sale. And then also, maybe some of these gurus out there, maybe they're talking to the mid-aged woman, midlife woman who's still working and got parents and kids still needing their support and spouse, and they're trying to think about their later years and all of these things. Maybe they're talking to that person,
Hmm.
but most of the time they're not.
Right. And it's important to know who the audience is for that message. To your point though, I know who you're talking about. I cannot remember her last name either, but she's big on Instagram. I'll find her. I'll put it in the show notes so people can see
Yes,
that too.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to say her last name and it just butchers it up.
I've heard her on a few podcasts, but yeah, same.
Yeah, I appreciate her information and I love to share that, but it can't be the first step. If somebody says to
Right.
me, I need to figure out my blood sugar, and the doctor's saying that I'm pre-diabetic, right? Which
Hmm.
I get all the time, right? I don't start with that hack because until I understand, like, what's your nutrition like,
Hmm.
right? Because now I've given them something that they can't do,
Right.
and that adds to the confusion and the frustration.
But I think it's important too, like some people I talk to who are, the ho-ho eaters, it, it's hard to believe that when you eat well for 30 days, 60 days, your body no longer craves the ho-ho. You no longer want the soda. You want to go and you want to get the things that make your body feel better because your body has learned after just a little bit of time that that is just kind of that stuff makes you sick. And then you go back and you try it just because you're like, I remember when that was great, and you eat it and you're like, gross. This is the worst thing that I could have ever done. I hate myself. I'm going to hate myself all day, and you kind of you get that like snap back from that rubber band to
Yeah,
remember that, okay, maybe this is the right path. Maybe it is
yeah.
good.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I love when that happens.
Hmm.
I love when that happens. Clients come in, and this is what I say to them. We're going to start this journey, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We're going to put a few things in place. It'll take us a few weeks because we want to do this slow. And then you're going to come in, you're going to be like, man, am I feeling a ton better? This is great. And then at some point, you're going to say, somebody's going to say, hey, I brought those favorite Girl Scout mint cookies that you love, right? And you're going to be like, hey, I'm doing great. It won't matter. And you have a half a sleeve, right?
Hmm.
You come back in, we have a virtual appointment, or you come back in face to face. This, I'm telling the story to the client. This is how this is going to happen, right? You're going to eat that sleeve of cookies, and then you're going to drag yourself back in front of me. And you're going to be like, oh, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what happened. I was doing so good. Oh, this is my brain fog, and my stomach hurts. I'm not sleeping good, and look, all these things, right? I feel like it takes me 4 days to recover from my exercise session. That's the same session I've been doing, the one that we figured out together. That's been, I don't know. And I'll say, tell me about your diet. And they'll, oh no. I'm good. And then I say, you're going to say to me, I'm going to say again to you. I'm going to say again to you. Now, tell me more about your diet. Cara
Hmm.
Michele, I'm telling you, I've been on it. I've been on it. Please, just tell me. Oh, anything different kind of coming? Oh, yeah. Well, it was my anniversary, and my husband brought me those mint chocolate chip cookies because, that was the thing that we bonded over when we met, and so he brought them, and okay, great. How many did you have? I think there's about 12 in the sleeve, and I had about 10,
Hmm.
right? Could that be the thing? You think so? So I tell them this is how it's going to happen, right? And sure enough, this is going to happen. And I want it to happen. It can't, number one, it can't happen any other way, right?
Right.
Because we want to test our fate all the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If we,
Let me try
if
it
we
again and just see if it hurts. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. Do I really need to eat like this? Right? And that's cool because I want it to come from them. See, in the beginning, as Cara Michele said,
Hmm.
right? But I want them to know 100%. And we go through this rhythm 2 or 3 times. It's not just once, Wendy. It's two or
Right.
three times, right? And I love it because then we get to reinforce. Oh, yeah, it really is true that I feel a ton better
Hmm.
when I'm got that rhythm with these seven. If I want a cookie, I can have one or two, right? If I know that somebody's really going to be counting on me in the next couple hours, right? And it doesn't bother me because either I did the hack, I had my vegetables first, or because my blood sugar is typically stable, and one or two cookies, a little more glucose doesn't throw me crazy
Right.
anymore, right? It's important for the person to know that for themselves. So going in and out of that, testing, checking it out till it becomes a
Hmm.
fact of life, not just information, but this is what I know for sure. So, like it's really useful for folks to get into that mindset. And that's really what the accelerator is about. Like, I want people to take their time, try it this way, try it that way, so that they pop out the other end with no doubts.
Hmm.
I choose this because I like how I feel. I like how I show up. I like how I am as a person. I like the choices that I'm making
Hmm.
because I feel good inside myself.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's true. I mean, until you kind of internalize all of the information and you practice it, you can't really come to the place and to the table with an honest perspective. You kind of have to hit the balance, and then when you hit the balance, then you have that ability to really understand what's affecting you and what doesn't work for you. So it
Yep,
is about the baseline for sure, for sure.
absolutely.
I feel like we could go on. Like, I still have 1,000 questions, but I want to be aware of your time. So I feel like, we could do this again and go into some of the other things because we haven't talked about alcohol. We haven't talked all of the things. So that said, though, I know you do a lot of things online, and I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how to find you. Do you do consulting over Zoom and Wi-Fi and all that?
I do. I
Okay,
do.
perfect.
We
So let's
self-care.
talk about all that so we can get all of that in there so everyone has an opportunity to reach out to you no matter where they are.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. So, I've had a brick and mortar practice for 20 years, and I help a ton of women there, and men as well, with any kind of musculoskeletal pain, digestive issues. So we use a combined um, uh, tray of different modalities, right? So
Hmm.
acupuncture, massage cupping, we use kinesiology tape. I have an infrared sauna. All of these different modalities, natural anti-inflammatories, so that we can reduce inflammation in the body, which tends to be the trigger for pain and discomfort in the body,
Hmm.
right? So, if anybody's in the Baltimore area, I am happy to have a free consultation with them by Zoom or in person, and we can see, what's really going on for them, um, and how I might be able to help. So, my online services, we have the Strength and Vitality Accelerator. Again, this is a program that is designed to slowly walk through women through understanding what are the signs and symptoms in my body and how they correlate with the 7 foundations.
Hmm.
And then figure out, how do I fill this gap between knowing and doing? The goal here is that when you finish this 12-month journey, that you have the tools, and not only just the tools, but it's innate in your habits. This is how I lead my life. I exercise a few times a week. I eat this kind of food. I prep my meals when I have the opportunity so that I can get my food easily. I drink this much water. We want it to be these 7 foundations to be as simple and as easy and as much of a habit as tying your shoes and brushing your teeth,
Hmm.
right? When we get to that place, we no longer have to struggle with them. We get off of this health and wellness roller coaster, getting started, failing, getting started, failing, right?
Right.
And then I have some folks who just want to get started easy and need some support just with the exercise. And we have our Mighty Me stretch and exercise programs.
I love that. I love that. And those are on YouTube so people can find them easily.
What, we froze 1 second there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the Mighty Me's. Are they on YouTube so people can find those?
They're an online course,
Hmm.
live classes that I offer. So we have those on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have another session at 5:30 in the evening. And a great way to get started, if folks are thinking that they really want to start moving around a little bit more, we have a free Saturday stretch class at 8 o'clock in the morning. If
Nice.
you go to my website, strengthvitalitywellness.com, you click on the Mighty Me section and get a free link. Sign up for the link, and then you can just come to the stretch class, meet the other women. It's a community. This is one of the things that we just have to accept. It's hard to make these kind of changes on our own. So it's really nice to have a framework to follow and to have a community of like-minded women and expert coaches that can be right there to answer questions and help motivate you in the beginning, get things rolling.
Hmm. I couldn't agree more. I think that tribe is important, and the more tribe you have to support you, especially when you fall, the more likely you are to succeed. So I champion that 100%. Awesome. Well, thank you, Cara
Yeah.
Michele. You have been amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
That's a good question. Uh, I think we covered quite a bit.
We did.
I would be delighted to come back if you had me at
Definitely.
some
Yeah.
point, but I think, I think that piece of choosing the life that you want to have is really, just a foundational place to start, right? We just have to, if we don't know where we're going, if we were going on a trip, you and I were going on a trip, we would spend time trying to figure out how we're going to get there, what kind of modes of transportation, what kind of experiences we want to have, and all that. But somehow we just don't do that for our own life journey,
Hmm.
right? So I think that there's two things that always show up when I'm chatting with clients is they want to feel excited about their life, the life they have right now, the life that they're creating for themselves in the future. And at the same time, they want to feel satisfied in themselves. They want to feel like, I like who I am. I like how I'm showing up. I like what it is that I'm contributing to the world, right? So,
Mhm.
that might be a thing. Like, what does it look like for you to be excited about your life and also feel satisfied where you are? You can be satisfied and excited about your future all at the same time.
Hmm. And I
Yeah,
think, that hope, that optimism towards tomorrow is so key to getting through today, whatever it is,
absolutely.
whatever moves you. Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you for
appreciate you.
this.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate you and with the work you're doing. Appreciate your style. This conversation has been really wonderful, and I want to wish you good luck. Going forward. If there's anything that I can be doing to help you, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Awesome. And we will do this again for sure. I appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.